I'm so excited about this first presentation today because the wonderful gals of the Western Carolina region have come down and are going to talk about their story about how they have really built such an incredible partnership and dynamic across the different support disciplines and across the different populations to create a really cohesive team approach in supporting the needs of their local citizens. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Linda, who is also going to facilitate and has been a huge part in being the glue that brought this group and keeps this group together. So just as a personal thanks to you, Linda, for doing this and for everything you do.
All right, I'll stand up, but I'll leave it up to all of you whether you want to stand up when it's your turn or not. But good morning. It's great to see all of you. In addition to working for the state, I do work at the local level in Region B, which really comprises, and that's, by the way, those regions, if you're not from the area agencies on aging, this is a particular area agency on aging component. So I'm looking over at Jeannie and thinking when she hears Western North Carolina, she thinks further west of Asheville in Region A. But these really, we're representing the 4 counties that comprise Buncombe, Henderson, Transylvania, and Madison counties, right in the greater Asheville, Hendersonville area. So that gives you a little context for our group. I live there as well, and so I work for the region, and I work with the Area Agency on Aging, with the Buncombe County Aging Plan in particular. And I just want to give you just like the shortest little history lesson on how we came to be. And let me see if I can move this. Oh, this was my first. This is really all about It Takes a Team. I decided to get away from It Takes a Village because I felt it was kind of overused, but it most definitely takes a team, the power of community partnerships in the transition process. And basically, this is the challenge which Trish really shared with you, the dynamic of needing a holistic approach and yet having systems that keep us separated, and how you overcome those silos in order to make something coherent and cohesive and collaborative. And one of my favorite sayings, just that helps me frame in a nutshell what often happens with services, is borrowed from the architectural phrase that form follows function. Have you heard that? Form follows function. The idea that you're planning a building based on the function that you want. I think we could probably all agree that really form follows finance. Form follows finance. And so, you know, whatever shape your service takes is often really shaped by the financing that you're getting. So why do IDD people not know about the aging services people? Because our finances have formed us in a certain way. And with those finances come agencies and policies and protocols and such. So some of bringing a team together is about really recognizing that and deciding that's not enough, that there's something else that's value-driven that can kind of push through that form follows finance paradigm. So our goal today is to just provide a little overview, you know, in a real concrete way, kind of our little history lesson of how we came together, this particular group, and then each one of them is going to speak to their role and how they have worked with a variety of community partners. And I guess, first off, I just want to introduce each member here at the table. I was so excited to see them. Suzanne's been here for the whole Transitions Institute. She is from the Council on Aging of Council on Aging for Henderson County, and she is our local contact agency options counselor for Henderson and Transylvania County. And then I'm going to jump over to Donna. Donna Case is our wonderful local contact agency options counselor for the Council on Aging of Buncombe County. Isn't it funny? You need to know your peculiarities of your local area, because honestly, if you say the Council on Aging for Buncombe County, you raise the ire of the executive director. So, not to digress too much, but anyway, then next to her is Barbara Manny, who I just want to say she is currently on furlough as a temporary employee for the state under the Division of Voc Rehab Independent Living Program. She is the Money Follows a Person's Transitions Coordinator in our Western region. And she came here as a volunteer. She is not being paid for her time. So let's just give her a round of applause. Super committed, and boy, when people saw her, they wanted to give her referrals right away. I was trying to protect her furlough. Anyway, well, it's great to have you. And then just a super duper wonderful, as all of them are, Jen Branham, who is the IDD Olmsted coordinator at Smoky Mountain, LME-MCO, so she's representing the IDD population, and she does the transitions coordination work in our area for that population. And we are missing some people who wanted to be here. A woman from CCWNC, the Community Care of Western North Carolina, Cindy Walhausen, sent her greetings, sent her remarks, and Donna Wolf represented her. Cap DA, Caroline Levi was planning to be here, and Lori Massey from Division of Voc Rehab Independent Living really wanted to be here. So they tried, and for various reasons couldn't be here. So I could just use up all our time, and I don't want to do that, but I just want to give you a quick history lesson. It's amazing to me when history goes back to the late 2000, like 2008, is when we had an opportunity to create CRCs all over the state. Remember? We talked about CRCs yesterday. They're part of the, really the North Carolina name for ADRCs, Aging and Disability Resource Centers. Our team really started from this effort. And we still retain our relationship with 211 in the Asheville area. They create warm transfers to collaborating entities. And the reason this is important is because the grant funding for the CRCs per se went away. It's kind of being reimagined through the No Wrong Doors grant at this present time. The idea that there's a point of entry for people or multiple points of entry where all these community services across disabilities know about each other. Well, again, in the form follows finance paradigm, we might have gone the way of just dropping the CRC because we're not getting funding for it. But we value the CRC, and we really hope to see it evolve with the No Wrong Doors because it keeps the community continuing to come around community living options for people, both coming out of institutions and being deferred from going into institutions. So on the back is all of our collaborating partners, and all of them, or most of them, are right here. So as things were added to what a CRC would do, in addition to giving information and assistance, options counseling, which is what I like to say in a nutshell. Options counseling is sifting and sorting out with somebody, tailor-making a plan with an individual, a family that's going to work for them, and then making those connections. So transitions was added, and MFP came into the picture, and something that Polly Welsh talked about yesterday called MDS Section Q, which I will not go into. I'm going to give Suzanne the great task of bringing that to light a little bit in a real concrete way. And so we now meet, I just want you to know, we meet monthly, the second Wednesday of every month. You're welcome to come. We meet at Land of Sky out on Leicester Highway. And we actually, because it's a kind of like little tip, we meet face to face. However, people have the option of calling into a call line because coming from Henderson County, for instance, or Madison County can get kind of wearing if you're out in the field. And so we do have a call line, and we discuss a number of things. We have things on our agenda, but we always have transitions conversations, and people will bring their issue to that table, and we'll discuss it. The only last thing I will say about our team meetings is that, and I was sharing this with the group and they were smiling about it, when we first started meeting, we would I would open it up to a transition conversation. And just to illustrate the disjointedness, someone would say, I'm working with somebody and she's 80 years old and she needs to have a ramp put on her house, and then everyone would go, I think I know who this is. Do you know, does this all resonate with you? I think I know who it is. Is she, are her initials D-O? Yes. Well, I was working with her too about 3 months ago. Well, that nursing home called me. Really? And it was this kind of like, oh my gosh, this person's been touched by 3 of our systems and there was no coordination. And now I really will say, as a result of our meetings, that that's just not happening. People are calling each other. They are on speed dial with each other. And they'll say, you know, I've got this person, they need ramp, so we need IL involved in it, and we need the Center for Independent Living to get involved on this issue or whatever. And so, anyway, with that, I am going to pass it along, and we are going to start with real people, real situations. These are 2 people who were supported in transitioning out in the Asheville area, in the Region B area. And I'm going to turn it over to Jen, who's going to talk about ocean.
Thank you, Linda. Trish, I wanted to thank you for setting me right here in this seat. 5 feet away from me, I think there's a jar of moonshine. If any of y'all are interested, Danielle down here has a little jar of moonshine. We'll be happy to share it with you. And we'll start this morning out right. Over here on this side, you'll see a young lady, and this is who we're going to talk about right now. Her name is Ocean. October 2013 was a very, very stressful month for me. Many of you know that Western Highlands Network was an LME for a long, long, long time. And the state terminated our contract, and we went through a big merge, and Smoky Mountain Center absorbed us. And our first working day was October 1st, 2013. So it's sort of like walking into a new job, but sort of knowing what you're supposed to do, but just feeling unsettled. All my friends and family knew I was going through this transition myself, and it was, you know, it's stressful. Any type of change is stressful. My phone rang, and I picked it up, and there's a woman on the other line, which I swore was one of my friends. And she's speaking in a very thick Jamaican accent. And she says, hello, I need some help. And I thought it was one of my friends that we were getting ready to go on a cruise in a few weeks with. And I said, yeah, man, I do too. And she went on, and I kept going on, right by the beach, man. And then it just got really quiet. And I said, is this you, Christy? There's no response back, and the lady starts back into her story, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what have I done? I didn't understand a whole lot she was saying, so we did manage in our conversation to agree to have her come to my office the next day so I could be face to face with her and really get her story and what is it that she's trying to communicate with me. The next day, Maureen shows up in my office, and I go meet her, and we sit down and talk, and she begins to tell me a story about her daughter. Her daughter was living in an ICF IID home in the Asheville area at that time. And she had been wanting her daughter to come out, and she heard a little bit through the ICF people that there's a girl over here that can help get your daughter out. She wasn't real sure of the program or what the funding was or even the process for that fact, but she knew well enough that she wanted her daughter home with her. And she wanted her home by Thanksgiving. And this is October 1st, or 2nd at this point. So I gather information. My partner, my community partner in the ICF, I had spent many, many years in developing a relationship with them. When you go into these facilities, a lot of times, in ICFs in particular, they think you're going in to pull people out, to shut them down and close their doors and put them out of business. So after some getting to know you time and understanding what my mission is and understanding what their mission is, they were more open to me coming into their homes. So on October 2nd, I got this information from Maureen, and I called the ICF and I said, hey, we need to sit down and have a meeting. This is what I want to do with MFP and Ocean. And they agreed, yeah, she would be great in the community. We don't know why she's here. So within this, it's sort of, you pull the trigger and you start these meetings and you start gathering information and you start learning and you start planning. And I learned real quickly that Maureen, the mom, didn't really know her daughter very well. When Ocean was 5, she had to have a surgery. She ended up having a TBI as well. And she came out of the surgery, but really wasn't developing as a typical kid would. Mom, still being in Jamaica, decided at that time that she felt that it would be best if she came to the United States, found work, got a job, got a place to live, and then brought her family back. Ocean was 7 years old at that time. 10 years later, Mom gets to the point where she's saved enough money and she can send for her family. Mom left Ocean and her siblings with other relatives. As Ocean started developing, all these behaviors started popping up, and these relatives couldn't handle her. So she would go from relative to neighbor to neighborhood to wherever, and she was just being passed along. She developed some behaviors such as biting. So as they do in Jamaica, instead of treating what the issue is, they just took her to the dentist and had all of her front teeth removed. So I'm working with this family and hearing this story, and I'm like, oh yeah, she's going to get home for Thanksgiving. I don't care if I have to work on this for the rest of the next 4.5 weeks. We're going to make this happen. So a lot of time was spent planning, bonding, getting to know each other. I spent time with Ocean at her group home. I spent time with Ocean in her day program. I spent time with Ocean and her mom, trying to get them to reconnect in a sense. Because Mom wasn't bringing her home for overnight. She would go maybe every other weekend and see her on Sunday afternoons because she was still working quite a bit. So we sat down and developed a plan that we're all comfortable to this point. So we continued to work on and move forward with the plan. And then we got her an innovation slot. So when she came out of the ICF, she would go right home. She would receive periodic services, have a one-on-one worker, and find some type of meaningful day activity. So we were proceeding forward with that. No speed bumps in the road. Ocean, I knew every day when Ocean was home from her day program because my phone would ring at 4 o'clock. And it would take about 45 minutes to get off the phone with her. On October 3rd, she called me and she said, Jean, I packed box. And I was like, what? So her group home staff got on the phone and said she has packed all of her things in boxes and she's waiting to discharge. So there was a lot of education. No, don't pack yet. It's not time to pack. Hold on. So we got linked up with a provider who provided the NC Innovation Services. Ocean at the time was pretty malnourished. She didn't like the food in the ICF, so she didn't eat much. So we were looking at her medical needs, and we got in touch with CCW&C, and we wanted to make that connection so they could help her medically navigate this system once she comes out into the home for her mom. She didn't really have any other medical needs other than her nutrition, so they just said, we're here if you need us. You contact us again, and we'll make that referral. At the time, she was just taking nutritional supplements just to gain a little bit more weight. So we identified a great day program for Ocean to go to. It's called Open Hearts. If you're ever in Asheville, I highly encourage you to stop by. It's not a typical day program. It's an artist program. They have local artists come in and work with the consumers, and they pump out real pieces of art. As you can see, Ocean has done, this is her self-portrait that she created probably about 2 weeks after she had been admitted into Open Hearts. Her artwork has taken off so much that there are collectors seeking her work, and we're at the point right now where we're like, slow down, you're going to have a deductible, calm down, it's going to mess up your Medicaid. So she has gone from success. I think I failed a big part in the story. When Mom brought her back from Jamaica to the United States, it was within 6 hours that Mom took her to the local ED and said, I don't know what to do. And that is how she ended up in the ICF. So when she came originally from Jamaica to come live with Mom, she never even slept one night with Mom. So just keep that in mind. Ocean comes out, Mom's ready. We do a lot of training. We're meeting with the day program. We're meeting with the old day program. We're meeting with the ICF. And at one point, I couldn't believe that we're all sitting around the table. And here's one agency that's getting ready to lose a lot of money by discharging her, but with open arms and just very helpful hearts sharing the information, because all in all, everybody wanted the best for Ocean. Ocean's doing really good. You follow the MFP process and you do your transition coordination and you make your visits, and then the sad thing happens is you eventually fade out. Well, I'm at that point where I have faded out. I work in a unit where care coordinators are just right outside my door, and as you know, many care coordinators, they have to go out and do monitoring visits, and a lot of their consumers attend this day program as well. And probably 3 out of 5 days a week, they'll come back and they'll say, "Oh, Ocean misses you." And it pulls on your heartstring. I know, I really want to get back and see her. And I will stop by every chance I can. A couple weeks ago, care coordination went out to Open Hearts, and Ocean had created me my own self-portrait. So I was like, "Oh, that's so sweet." So I stopped by the center and I hugged her and I thanked her. And I said, "Oh my goodness, Ocean, you don't need nutritional supplements anymore." The neat thing is, once a person comes out of an ICF where they're not allowed in the kitchen or they're not allowed to go in the refrigerator compared to when they come home, Ocean has probably gained 80 pounds at this point. Diane can tell you I was sending in lots of SCCB requests for more clothes, because they weren't fitting quite well. But we're going to make that referral for the nutritionist, but for the other side now. So it's neat. We're going to make that contact with CCW&C. The care coordinator's working on an update right now to put some things in her plan. About a week ago, care coordinator comes back to the office and says, "Oh, Ocean's mad at you." I said, "I just went down and saw her." They said, "Well, she's painted you a new picture." And they said, "We told her that's not how you spell your name." So I don't know if you all can see this, but it says, "I love you, Sharika." And she made a big point to tell the care coordinator, "This is for Jen." And the care coordinator said, No, that has Sharika's name on it. Sharika's her 101 worker. So in her own way, she's letting me know that I have been replaced. So Jen, Sharika, whatever it takes, I'm always willing and happy to work with families. And seeing people out in the community is just one of my pleasures in life. And I appreciate the developmental centers, Murdoch, that I work with. We are a team, and we're not looking for a placement. We're looking for a home, and we're not looking for a 6-month home. We're looking for a forever home. We know things blow up and things happen, and we scramble to fix them. But if you guys just be honest and open and transparent, let your community partners know what you want, what you're doing, and what it's for, they're going to come to the table and sit around with you and share and really do best by the individuals we serve. So that is Ocean.
All right. Jackie is our other participant. She came a few weeks ago and spoke, and it was really heartwarming, very touching. She kind of awed the crowd. She was in her 60s and planning on retirement, thought everything was going well. She had planned, she had saved like so many of us, and really had things under control. She had a medical episode that turned her life upside down. She wound up having to go to the hospital. She went into a facility for short-term rehab. A few months later, I got the call for the local contact agency. She was in there, and because her physical condition had changed so much, everything was completely different for her. She had a home that she thought she was going back to, and her family, which is 3 sisters living in 3 different states, for all the right reasons, were absolutely against her coming home. So when I went in to see her, she sat there and was really upset and was really crying. She did not feel like she was appropriate for long-term care, did not want to be in there. She was much younger than the people around her. People passing away around her made her not want to make friends. She said every time she made a friend and learned a name, the person died. So I sat and talked with her, and 2 of her sisters were actually in that meeting. They were supportive until Jackie went to the restroom. When she went to the restroom, they completely changed their tune for like the next 10 minutes, and I was berated with reasons that she could not return to the community. And one of those sisters was the homeowner of Jackie's house. So when Jackie came back, we discussed it. They did not want her to know that they were against her returning home because they wanted to be supportive in their own way. And it was with absolutely the best intentions, but it was not what Jackie wanted. So we discussed the different options, the different processes, the need for the housing. We discussed the fact that the mobile home that she had left was not safe for her to return to. So we just started the process over several different visits, and thankfully the sisters left town. So we were able to meet with Jackie personally, just one-on-one with just us. And we talked to her about the different things that she needed. Part of her issues were that there was some medication mismanagement in her past. So we really reviewed all of that. We worked closely with Community Care of Western North Carolina for the transition. And lo and behold, it did happen. It took several months. Lori Massey with Independent Living was able to find her some housing that was handicap accessible. She is now doing great. Some of the relationship issues with her sisters have been repaired. They now realize that she can live in the community and live there safely, and she is really, really thriving. Cindy continues to work with her medication management, making sure that she gets to the doctor, helping her with transportation issues and things around her follow-up visits. She can call us. Ironically, her apartment is just down the road from us, and she can call and we can go over and help when we need to. But she has found enough support in her community, in her immediate housing community, that she really doesn't need us anymore. She needs a little bit of guidance and a little bit of support from us on the phone, and honestly, that's about all we're doing for her, which is absolutely ideal. But I would like for Barbara to speak a little bit about what independent living does as far as getting the housing secured.
Okay, it's really tough to follow either one of these people, so I apologize. Thank you for that and for the placement in order. I can't take credit for Jackie's transition only as MFP staff, because I came on board in June of last year. Jackie transitioned in April. I did get to visit her a few times. We do follow along for 3 months after we transition someone home. So I did get to visit her. But Lori Massey, who did want to be here today, works for Independent Living. MFP, we work very closely with Independent Living. I'm actually stationed in their office. We communicate constantly. We have to. Actually, MFP funding gets authorized through them. So if we want to tap into the money that's in MFP, we need to go through them. But they're also the experts when it comes to housing, so we would go through them anyway. So Lori actually was a big part of the housing itself. That particular housing unit, she's really very active in starting resources where there aren't any. She's in Madison County, which is a very small county. I know she started a lot of things there. So she actually was a player in getting that housing development started. What is the name? Is it Lighthouse? And it's a very, it really is like upscale. It's like visiting someone at her condo. Jackie loves it. It has everything she needs. Everything's low to the ground. She can have a pet there. She has a little cat named Tony, named after Tony Bennett. I think he's in the picture. Yeah, because he makes a lot of noise. But Lori was vital in getting that done. And whenever I do an MFP transition where we need housing, sometimes I do go through Council on Aging and Donna can also do it, but Independent Living oftentimes takes the lead in that piece in housing and can get them on a targeted housing list. And there's two big things the MFP can offer to the person who spoke about housing and needed some information on that. As the two big things that should light up when you think of MFP transitions is, at least for my population, is that we can get CAP services in immediately. So we don't have the CAP waiting list, and that is really golden for people who need that support right away when they get home. and might not be able to get home without it. But the other thing is we have housing priority in the targeted housing. So other independent living does have some priority, so does Council on Aging, but we're even a little bit above that. So when those openings are there in targeted housing, we get those first. And that's what Lori was able to do, and that was a big piece in getting Jackie home.
Yeah, I think we were going to talk about referrals, how we get referrals, where they come from. On my side of the shop, I work in the LME NCO at Smoky. So my referral system is a little bit unique. At this point, some of it's word of mouth, some of it's private. People will just call and say, I heard about this. Getting influxed by PRTFs. They've learned the magical 90 days and they come out with innovations. PRTFs. Oh, you don't like to talk in acronyms, do you? Psychiatric Residential Treatment Facility. We're seeing a lot of younger kids go into those, and they have a hard time in trying to pull them out and put them into their next placement or come back home. Now they're being identified as dually diagnosed, and some, they're meeting the criteria and the qualifications. So we do get a lot of referrals from PRTFs. In my area, I'm starting to get a lot of referrals from ICFs themselves. I want to say the ones that trust me, or I've really gotten able to get in there and build relationships with. And sometimes every blue moon, Natarsa will send me one or two. One time she sent me one, and I looked the person up in the system. I was like, well, where on earth are they? How can they have a disability? And Well, it ended up, it was Barbara's person, so that was real easy. I could refer to the referral to Barbara. So
I tried to refer that.
Yeah, we do. Not my system, but we found them, and she's got them now. So there's no wrong door for a referral. A lot of times it's just a phone call. Day before yesterday, I was at a staff luncheon, just sitting beside a lady I've never spoken to out of 400 employees, getting to know her. She was talking about her son who lives in the ICF. And I said, do you want him to live in the community? And she burst out into tears and said, I've wanted this for 5 years. So we were able to send in a referral that day with an employee that I work with that I had no idea. So her son's going to be transitioning out, and we'll get a slot in August.
Okay. All right. How many in here are social workers with a SNF? Oh, wow. Okay. I know. Okay, so you asked the question, right? And I just found out that it's asked as soon, the question is, and this is the form. The question, this is how we get our referrals at the agency, at the Council on Aging, and the options counselor gets to know, to make the contact. And so as soon as someone is admitted to a skilled nursing facility, they're asked the question on the 5th day, the 14th day, and the 30th day, and then it's quarterly. Is that correct? That's correct. Okay. All right. And the question is, do you want to know about the possibilities of leaving this facility and returning to live and receive services in the community? What strikes me is the first part of that is leaving this facility, which perks up, and learning about services in the community. So if they answer yes, at any time, if they answer yes, that, Linda, we have these wonderful pins that have the 866 number on them that Linda's going to pass out. And they call the number, and then the agency gets an encrypted email, and then Lori sends it to the agency, and I get it immediately, and within 3 days I have to contact the agency. And I usually try to get the social worker. Now I've learned that I want to make a phone appointment with the social worker because I have a list of questions to ask before I make contact with the resident. And so I get a little bit of information there, and then I say, okay, I want to come see the resident. You know, what's going on? Can we set up an appointment? And then that follows. I get in there to see him. The most exciting part for me, and Donna can also voice some opinion on this, is walking in and meeting these people, or this person, this resident, and letting them know, and I'm going to tell you this, what I say. I said, I'm from the state of North Carolina, and I'm here to help you make some decisions and give you some options, because I hear you want to leave. But my questions also are addressed to them to say, what works for you here? What's not working? What's your history? Let's get to know each other. And I try to make it, you know, light, fun, but let them know I'm there for you. I'm here to hear you. And sometimes they want to move to a different county. Buncombe. So I call Donna and I can make the referral there. But it's awesome to be able to follow through the system, to work with the people in the facility, family, and the resident. And we try to get involved in the interdisciplinary care plan, so we can all be on the same page as to what is best for this resident. What is important for this resident? And listen, so we're all listening together. What is important for him or her? We had one case where the social worker said he's got huge anger issues. I go, oh, okay, all right. So I get ready, go in, okay. I go, okay, so I understand you've got some anger issues. What's the problem? What are you angry about? He says, no one is listening to me. I said, well, guess what? I'm here to listen to you. And I took as much time as he wanted. And we had the best conversation. We had the best time talking about his past, what he wanted to do, the things he was a veteran, Oh, we had the best time. When I left, he's like, okay, this is going to work. And I talked to the nursing staff, and they said, oh, he's not going to be happy about this. And one of them, I called back to the social worker afterwards, and I said, how's it going? And she said, his attitude has completely changed because someone listened to him. Someone honored him and what he wanted. I think even in the failures, the ones that, I don't mean to use that word failure, but the ones that are not able to leave, after we go through the process, they are the ones that make the decision. It's nobody else. They recognize, okay, this is what I'm getting here. This is what I'm going to need if I become independent. And I give them the options that are available to help with that. And in the process, they come to the decision, okay, because of my health reasons, I think I'm better off here. So it empowers them to make that decision on their own. Nobody's forcing them. Somebody's listening. And it's just, that's what I get excited about, is just giving them the hope. We had one incident where in a facility, a person was a double amputee and was going into independent living. 4 other people in that same facility wanted to get out, because if he can get out without 2 legs, then we can get out. So all of a sudden we got 4 referrals, boom, boom, boom. And it was like, whoa, what's going on here? But it was wonderful to go in and talk with each one of them to find out, what is it that's important to you? What is it you want to do? And this one person was wheelchair bound, had MS, could not transfer at all. And I said, well, have you gotten the triangle to be able to pull up to, she says, I'm just so weak. I said, well, maybe physical therapy could work with you, to build up your strength. Let's do that first. And so she said, okay. So she called me 2 days later and said, I talked with physical therapy and they said I'm too weak. I went, come on, people, work with me. So I go back, to the facility and I said, can't we just work with her strength? Just give her a little 1-pound weights, 8 ounce, just let her lift. for her to get some hope that maybe there's a chance. And if I can't do it, then it's my decision that I'm not going to be able to do it. It's not the facility saying, you can't, there's no way you're going to be able to get out of here. So these are the things that we get excited about, you know, when you go in to see these people, to be able to say, okay, let's look at some hope here. Is that all? Any questions?
So as you can see, it's a team of not very passionate people who don't care. We have to somehow rouse them to care about what they do. And I know that you're like that too. Everyone here really has this, and I'm sure you all have your stories. And there's just probably no more meaningful work. Whenever I'm think of all the various tasks and things that I do, I'm so proud to be part of this work, and I'm so proud to be part of this team too, and to bring this team together. We thought of a few tips, and you know, they echo a lot of what was said by the group from you know, the Murdoch Center and Polly Welsh and those around just collaboration in general. I added the saying, "Don't rush, don't rest." Just a sidebar, I'm a violinist and I do teach violin, and then the Suzuki method, which I'm not an orthodox Suzuki teacher, but there's a saying, don't rush, don't rest. The idea that you approach your instrument every day, even if it's like for 15 minutes, and over time you're going to get there. And it actually was something resonated with Trish a few years ago for the transitions process. It's kind of a dogged, my goodness, you just stay at it. You don't try to be chaotic and rush this, but you never let it go either till you bring it to. And I heard that very much in all of your conversations or dialogue, and Jen, I guess yours was a little bit just about being scrappy, you know, and staying in there. Being person-centered, and I heard a lot that, you know, Suzanne talking about that. It's what's important to the person as well as what's important for that person. And Donna's conversation about, you know, the family having a very clear picture and being reminded that it's the individual's choice. The individual is the one whose life we're talking about here, and the empowerment. Nothing about me without me. When I was in I used to be solely in aging services, and then I was in Georgia during the Olmstead decision and worked for Medicaid. So I actually was involved in pulling together cases for the Atlanta Legal Aid during that process that led to the Olmstead decision. So it was a big formative thing for me. And I got much more versed with the disability mantra of nothing about me without me. The idea that that person who is in the process of transitioning stays in the center and is the one who is leading this effort. Providing comfort and assurances to family, just that, because there is a lot of anxiety. We talked about fear yesterday quite a bit. Knowing the resources in community and cultivating relationships. And one thing I wanted to say, it's another thing that I think maybe I think about from time to time, is that I believe as a species we're clannish. You know, we're clannish. We create, you know, it's us and them. And we might start with a group and then we kind of form, our walls get a little thicker, and this is our team, and that's your team. Our world is made up of, you know, us and them. And I think one of the things that I try to continue to open my mind to is that there are always new players coming in. Don't ever close your team off and say, this is our team. Jen brought us the awareness of the geriatric and mental health assessment, geriatric assessment and mental health team, specialty team, right, and at Smoky Mountain. So now we have a brand new person who's able to really consult on mental health issues in geriatrics and family caregivers. This was something we didn't have a part of the team. So it's constantly evolving. And be transparent. Don't hold anything back. Be willing to ask the dumb questions. And that's it. So I'd just like to open it to any questions or thoughts. And Trish, if you want to jump in.
I did want to ask one question for those folks. First of all, thank you all. Two things. If people in the audience are coming from places where there's not already a CRC in place, or that kind of structure isn't there or wasn't there to bring people together the way it brought you, what would your all's advice be for how to bring this kind of working collaboration together in local communities?
I would say you're here right now and you're all going back to the same places. Go ahead and share that contact information, get an email, and don't be afraid when things get tough to shoot an email. Dina's here. Dina works at Alliance. I work at Smoky, and we communicate regularly just about what do you have? I don't know, what do you have? Nothing. But yeah, we go back and forth. But, you know, I would have said 5 years ago if Dina would have called me and said, I'm looking for a placement. And if I had to, I would be like, well, those are mine. I'm not giving them to you. But it is through a collaborative process and bonding that you do want to see the best for all, no matter what county you're from.
Anybody else want to add? Are there questions from the group?
I will say that it's really helpful. You know, I've at times really been conscious of people's time and not wanted to have monthly meetings. So we've talked about having quarterly meetings, but we have them monthly because these things are happening all the time. And it is helpful if you can find a point person who's willing to convene the group and at least set up a conference call so that you can call in. But I do think face-to-face once in a while, it's just, you know, another thing. Just we talked about it at a table yesterday. Technology's great, but you begin to lose touch with that human element if you don't get together once in a while. So we get together quarterly and then offer the phone options. So I think finding a convener and then just beginning to have those meetings, and the people who care, and there are a lot of people who care, are going to show up.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Oh, was there a question?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry, you guys. At the break, we'll organize our mic running.
I just have two questions. One, could you all give an example of where you may have used like braided fund development because of eligibility criteria, and how you had to work together as a team to achieve a goal because of, you know, maybe eligibility or a policy, where we talk about the finance formation and how that kind of pushed the team to figure out, you know, how are we going to finance this or make this happen because someone's not eligible for this service, but maybe a member of the team can help out in another way. And then the second question I have is, you all made reference to Money Follows the Person, supporting folks, individuals in transition. Are any, what does that look like for folks that might have a mental health primary diagnosis and money following the person? Not dually diagnosed, but someone that has a primary mental health diagnosis. Thank you.
Donna is going to tackle your first question, and then we'll get to your second question, kind of tag teaming with Trish.
We had a gentleman that wanted to transition from Yancey County, which is a more mountainous county than Buncombe. He wanted to come to Buncombe County, so we actually worked with him quite a bit. He qualified for Money Follows the Person for everything except for the physical need. So he didn't qualify for any of those funds, but he was Medicaid eligible. We worked with targeted housing and went ahead and put in those applications. His name came up on the wait list, so we were actually able to transition him actually across 2 counties and into Buncombe County. He's in independent living now. What we done with it, because we didn't have Money Follows the Person funds, we were able to beg, borrow, and almost steal everything that we could possibly do. We used all of the local churches, because he had nothing. He had no furniture. He had no income, so to speak. The targeted housing was a huge piece, but then he needed all of the other stuff too. And because he was crossing county lines, he had no community connections whatsoever. So we were able to link him up with the transportation. Then we needed to get him actually get him into the community as far as like his primary care physician and all of that. So we just kind of, everybody dug in. The social worker at the facility was awesome. He dug in with us, and we asked all of the questions, but we literally went to every agency in the county that we could think of to meet any need possible. So we were able to staff his refrigerator. We hooked him up with transportation. He's now with Community Care of Western North Carolina for the support for all of his med management and things like that. So it was definitely a collaboration across, not only across the different agencies, but it also traveled several different counties.
I think it's important to note that what I've always appreciated about Donna and folks who are very much like Donna on the panel and throughout this room and throughout the state are, it's like this is a challenge. This is not a barrier. We are going to find a way through this. We're going to be like water and find our way, and you do. And a little bit of an editorial comment, part of our role, as the state team, is to really try to do whatever humble part we can to make it easier to do the right thing for people. And for those systems, those systemic barriers around funding, where funding creates the restriction for us to be really pushing on how to redesign those funds. And I think there's been some really good initial steps already made, but certainly there's more work to be done there.
I wish that Lori Massey and Caroline Levi were here right now, because one of the things I've seen that is really wonderful to behold is how those two agencies will go, well, I can't, we can't do that. Well, we can do that. And the relationship, like vocational rehab, independent living is every agency struggles with finite resources, but they have prioritized transitions also. So if someone is transitioning out, they can jump into action and help with home modifications and do things that would not have been possible before. And it's great to see like how they'll fill in pieces of that puzzle.
Yeah, that's a good quote. I can't, but I can. Like, that somebody, by coming together as a team, you may be able to say, our organization can't do that. Somebody else can say, yeah, but ours can. And then figuring
or a
that
group
out.
Even, I'm sure many of you might be acquainted with NCBAM, North Carolina Baptist Aging Ministries. I mean, that's an example of a group.
Great resource.
That is, that you want to get to know. It just continuing to foster relationships, people who can fill in holes that you don't presently have filled.
And I would like to say too, with our meetings and our collaborations, there's a lot of times that we've got the agency sitting across the table from us, but it's that one little niche that we weren't aware of. So it comes up in conversation, and we're constantly learning, even about the agencies that we work closely with. The one thing that this has really taught me is to not make an assumption that somebody can't do something. So always ask the question, and ask the question even if you think you know the answer, because it may be a different answer.
Great. As far as the Don, I think that's very insightful. As far as the money follows the person question, I'm more than happy at lunch for anybody who wants to chat about MFP. We've really tried for this not to be the MFP conference or the MFP symposium, but if people are interested in MFP, I'm more than happy for us to be available at lunch to answer questions. The mental health consideration is a very quirky one in Money Follows the Person. In North Carolina, we expect people to be able to come out with the waiver type packages that individuals have through the Innovations Waiver or through CAPDA, and that waiver package doesn't really exist in the mental health community as much. There are some things that we've done and that we are exploring that I'm more than happy to talk about. But no, it's a gap in it's a challenge in our own program. I think we are at time. Yeah. You all, thank you so much. Thank you, panel. This was, I think, certainly, this is real life.